Allah will show you. If he was with Allah, Allah would have shown him exactly why that family. He would have known it. He would have felt, oh my God, there's loss here. There's death here. There's al-mumit. There's al-khafid, the bringer down. Al-mumit, the giver of death. There's nature of qualities here that are existing, and these people are experiencing. So you have to be strong, but be strong by Allah, not strong through your own self, because the self can be strong, but the strength of the self will slowly fade out. As you get older, you get weaker and weaker. But as you're younger, you have great strength. But the strength of Allah is eternal. And we saw that a lot with Sidi. Sidi, I was looking at those pictures back when we were, 20 years ago, and I was thinking about him 2 years ago, and I think he was actually younger 2 years ago than he was 20. Don't you think? Then he looked older back then than he did the last 5 years. He actually looked much younger. So there was a big change. Okay, so Sufism is about the walking to the knowledge of God, but not intellectual knowledge, it's through tasting knowledge. Okay? So the knowledge of God is not just what you read in your books. You read something and you learn something, although that certainly has great value, and I'm not against it. It's wonderful value. But this is not the answer. I mean, Google has more knowledge than any of us have about Sufism, and it's not an enlightened computer. Even though it's a good one, all right? So knowledge, I'm not talking about intellectual knowledge here, okay? What I'm talking about is the direct knowledge of God. The direct knowledge means the experience of God with the understandings that come out of that experience. Okay, so you have to do that, you have to open and really allow your heart to experience God. These are the secrets. You experience God through opening to God. You have to open. And then when you open to God, the light of God comes in. Okay? This doesn't come into your mind. It can come into your mind, but it's not about the mind. It's about the heart, because Allah says, I don't look at your mind, I look at your heart. So it's the light that comes into your heart. Okay? Now, when that light comes into your heart, what happens? It reveals something to you, right? That's called tajalli. Tajalli means the revelation or the revealing of knowledge directly from God. Okay? So Sufism is about tajalli. You're trying to have direct knowledge that is revealed from the light of God inside your heart. Now, how does that happen? Well, generally, for most people, until you reach the world of unity or the fourth station, it happens through something called the Rouhanis. You heard that word before? Rouhanis are the angels. The angels bring that light of knowledge inside of your heart and they reveal it to you. So when you're saying Allah, 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 and all of a sudden the light comes in, and as the light comes in, something opens inside of you, and the light brightens up inside of your heart, that's Allah's light coming in, and then all of a sudden you understand something, that's the knowledge. That's the tajalli. And if you really hear it, it's from the voices of the angels. Okay, that's what Rouhani is. So the voices of the angels speak to you, but most of the time you will not hear this unless you're in the state of fana. Okay, in other words, to hear the Rouhani, you have to be in the third station. Okay, and this is what this lecture is about. This lecture is about the third station. Yes?
Does the first part of that start with R-U-H, meaning
Soul.
soul?
Yeah. Okay, so again, just let's review this for a moment. we have in Sufism, we have steps. Okay, you have to understand these steps. The first step that we use is introduction to the name of Allah. Okay, why? Because the name of Allah, which is what we call the great name, contains all the 99 names. So when you know the name of Allah, you know all the 99 names. Okay, so the first step of Sufism is learn the name of Allah in Sharia Sufism, and from the name of Allah, begin to understand the 99 names. That's our first step. Okay, our second step has to do with actions. That you understand that Allah has decreed actions, and you try to learn them and follow them. Okay, we call divine law. In other words, don't slander, don't backbite, things like that. Now, the third step has to do with what? Purification of anything that gets in the way of knowing this. Okay. Yes?
Where does intention come in those 3 steps?
At the beginning of all of them. What are you intending? You have to set that intention in yourself. You have to be clear. Remember what I said. Everything happens from a pull. Your pull is your intention. Your intention guides your life. If you don't know what your intention is, you don't know why you're alive. If you don't know what you have set as your intention, you are living your life half asleep. You have to wake up. You have to wake up. And the best waking up, I can tell you, from Prophet Muhammad, from Sidi, peace and blessings be upon the Prophet and blessings upon Sidi, is to know, to have the true experiential knowledge of God revealed in your heart, and to actualize it. That's the best intention there is. After that, to be loving, to be kind, to be good, all the 99 names. But that first one is to choose in yourself, to choose to want to have the knowledge of God. Okay, why do we want to make this choice? And I'll tell you why. First of all, when you die, these choices are known. They're all recorded. It's all being recorded. When you die, what you choose will be brought out and will be weighed. So you need to know what your choices were. Did you weigh heavy and good, or did you weigh heavy in the choices that were selfish? This is the greatest victory of your life. If you can weigh heavy and good, you've used your life well. If you weigh heavy and bad, you've wasted your life. It's as simple as that. This is the number one reason why you want this. Because when you die, you're weighed. Now, some of you may not believe that. Some of you may not know it's true. But don't believe me. Go to the cemetery and go walk around the graves. And go sit at 10 different graves. And you will see that some of those graves, you sit down and it's scary. And you'll go to another grave and you sit down and it's sad. And you go to another grave and you sit down and there's goodness. And you go to another grave and you sit down and there's like angels blowing their horns. Don't think that there is not a judgment. Just go sit at the graves if you don't believe me. Because it's all there. And anybody can feel it. I don't care who you are. Go there and sit. You'll feel it. Okay? So that first reason is the weighing. And the second reason is really about your lives. How are you living your lives? Do you want to be living your lives from selfishness? Do you want to be living your lives from the I? Do you want to be living the lives from how much can I get, and I'm going to be better, and I'm going to jump on top of my neighbor, and I'm going to do this, which is how most of the world has been living? Or do you want to live from something better than that? Do you have goodness in your heart? Do you want to live from a state of goodness, or do you want to live from a state of selfishness? And the knowledge of God is pure goodness. The knowledge of God is absolute pure goodness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always trying to give you the pure love. Is always trying to help you. It is never ending. Allah's ocean of love and mercy is never ending. God never gives up on you. No matter how much you struggle, no matter how angry you are, no matter how many times things have gone bad for you, you know what? Allah keeps working. He keeps working inside of you over and over again. He keeps trying and trying and trying. God will never give up on you. You may give up on yourself, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never give up on you. The mercy and the love, all you have to do is turn and say, La ilaha illallah. There's no God but one. And immediately that mercy comes in. And my experience is when that mercy comes in, my whole life changes. The minute that mercy comes in, everything goes away. That's bad. And goodness is reestablished. Because Allah is pure goodness. Allah is pure love. Allah is purity. It is the purity. Allah is transcendent purity. And that's why it's important to realize, people say, oh, I want to reach enlightenment. Well, I love enlightenment. You know what? Enlightenment, the nur of enlightenment, is only an attribute of God. There's nothing wrong with enlightenment. Beautiful. But enlightenment is not Allah. It's a stage below Allah. You can reach it, alhamdulillah, reach it. But don't think it's the end of the story. There's much, much more after enlightenment. What's more than enlightenment? Allah. So don't stop with the light of your mind. Don't stop with the illusion that this is the end of the story for those of you on a spiritual path, because enlightenment, as beautiful as it is not the completion in the nature of Allah itself. You have to go beyond it. Okay? So, as we go further, we realize that there are stations. Okay? And these stations are the foundation of the Shadaliya way. This is Shadaliya Sufi way. He was a Shadaliya master, also a Rouhani master, but he eventually said that he realized that the Shadaliya was better, and he said faster, and essentially he gave up the Rouhani to become Shadali. So that's why we're doing Shadali. Okay? Now, Shadaliya way has stations, okay, 7 primary stations. And the first station, which we're not going to spend time with tonight, is basically very simple. Overcome the voice of shaitan, which are the dark voices inside of yourself, and choose to listen, follow, and I hate this word, but I'll use it, obey God's light. That's the first station. If you haven't made those choices, you haven't completed the first station. Okay, now you might say, well, I want to be free, I'm an American. Or even worse, I want to be free, I'm a Texan. If you talk about freedom, this is the state of freedom, right? Yeah, exactly. This is good. Texan is it. But in spite of that, even Texans have to ultimately follow God. Even Texans, I don't care how long your horns are. You still have to follow that. Okay, all right. So that's the first thing, is this. Now, we're not going to talk about that tonight. We're not going to talk about the second station, but I'll go over it in a moment with you. Second station is about the heart turning back to Allah, back to God, and choosing. Again, notice the word choosing. See this choice again? Choosing. It's all about free choice. Choosing to love what God loves. It's a very simple way of understanding the second station, but that's the second station. In other words, action doesn't, it's easier to change your actions. It's not hard to choose to follow what God wants. To put down being right, to put down doing what you want. It's not hard to do that. But to change your heart, to let go of things, like what if you love food, but your food, now your cholesterol's off the charts, and you know that you're heading for a heart attack, do you give up the food or not? See, if you were with Allah, Allah would say, my beloved, why aren't you fasting? Why aren't you giving up your food that's causing cholesterol? And you're saying, but I love food. I can't get enough of that Whole Foods cheese. It's amazing. You know, I gotta have it. And so you keep going back and getting cheese, but your cholesterol keeps going off the charts. You've got to allow yourself to get rid. You know, if you're smart, you've got to give up that cheese. If you're not smart, you'll continue to eat the cheese. Your cholesterol's going to go up. Your blood pressure's going to go up, and you're going to have a heart attack. And when you have it, you'll wonder why. Well, I didn't do anything. It's not my fault. But as a doctor, I'm a physician. I hear it all the time. I didn't do it. I had nothing to do with it. That's not true. You did. Okay, so the heart turning back, the heart turning back to God is an important piece of this. Okay, and so the second step is the heart turning back to God. Now, there are many diseases, by the way, as a physician and a spiritual healer, there are hundreds and hundreds of diseases that reflect these issues. Hundreds of diseases. As a spiritual healer, this is something I see every day of my life. And those people come in, and one woman, she came in, she had stage 2 breast cancer. And she said, I didn't do anything, it's probably genetic, I didn't cause this breast cancer. And I said, well, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, maybe it's genetic, maybe not. And I said, let's take a look at your breast cancer. So we went inside, we started looking at it, opened up the inner reality of the breast cancer. What she said, she was very angry about that, by the way, she didn't want to do it. But when she opened it, she said, the reason I'm sick is because my family is not respecting me and doesn't like me and they don't treat me right. And I thought about it for a while and I said, are you sure? I said, how do you treat your family? And she went ballistic, she started screaming at me. She said, how dare you ask me questions like that? It's about them, they're doing it, it's their fault. And I said, no, I said, my experience as a healer is not about them at all, and most things are actually a mirror of ourselves. What's going on in you? And she was furious, she hung up on me, wouldn't talk to me for about 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, she called me back crying. Ibrahim, you were right. The truth is, I'm furious with my students because they won't do what I want. I want to be the queen, they're supposed to follow me, and when they don't follow me, or my family doesn't follow me, or my children don't follow me, then I'm pissed off about it, and the truth is, I'm not giving the love, and it's about me withholding love because people don't do what I want. And she got it. She spent the next month purifying out the desire for power, the desire for control, the desire for all those things. She went back in a month and a half later to get her mastectomy, and guess what? Tumors were gone. No chemo, no radiation, nothing. The tumors disappeared on their own. And I'm going to give you 20 stories like that of people who, when they got inside what was going on inside themselves and they took responsibility for it, the disease disappeared. So for me, spiritual healing is a very simple understanding. What's going on inside of ourselves that creates disease? Okay? But another way of saying it is, what's going on inside of ourselves that's making our lives not work? Because if you're having bad relationship, if you're having problems with your parents, problems with your children, problems with your work, problems with your money, problems with your health, the question that always has to be asked first is what's going on inside of ourselves that's creating the problem. That's always the last question. It actually needs to be the first question. What's going on inside yourself? And you will see that what's going on inside yourself is that somewhere inside of yourself there's what I call a bubble. A bubble means a bubble of light, a bubble of energy, a bubble of a place inside of you. And out of that bubble, something inside of you isn't right. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, for example, I'll tell you a story about a woman who had schizophrenia. She came, and when I met her, she had, schizophrenia means that she was hearing voices. And from a perspective, she had a crack in her brain, like that. And when she came in, she was babbling. And this was a very famous woman, I won't tell you who she is, but she was very famous, very well known, and she had a psychotic break. Okay, but I want to tell you the story, because I think the story emphasizes this teaching, which I think is really important, which is the following. When she looked inside of herself, we started exploring what had broken her mind. We saw that something had pulled this way, and something had pulled that way. Okay, so I started finding out. I had to be like a detective. I had to start figuring it out. So what was the split? So here was the story. Okay, the story was that she was Buddhist. She believed that anybody who sold drugs should go to jail and get the electric chair. If you were selling drugs, you should go to jail and you should be executed. Then, her son, who she loved more than anything in the world, got caught for selling drugs. So now, according to her own ethics, he needed to get the electric chair. She went crazy. She couldn't handle it. One side of her said, I love him. One side of him said he needs to die. The battle between these two sides broke her mind, and she went crazy. Okay? We got hold of that. We got inside that, and we began working on healing that. And as we did that, the two sides began coming back together. And she realized that both sides were wrong. That her son needed to learn not to sell drugs and be a noble human being, but that killing people was not the answer and that she needed to have mercy. As she began to accept these two sides and they began to resolve inside of themselves, these parts began coming back together, they began coming back together, they came back together, and eventually they wove back together. And the moment of weaving, she started talking normally. And her psychosis disappeared. Okay, so again, think about this. I'm giving you very powerful secrets about existence, which is that inside of us are realms of being, of consciousness, of light, of understanding that are incomplete. Those places can cause disease at one spectrum, they can cause separation at another spectrum, and at the third level, which is what we're going to be talking about the rest of my lecture, is the station of righteous goodness that separates one from truth.